Welcome to Town Talk, a program of light and lively discussion about people you know. We'll be talking with people in business, people in government, people who browse, and people who sit around the courthouse watching Madisonville go by. Now, your host for Town Talk, John Stalls.
Hello and welcome to Town Talk. I am your host, John Stalls, and it's good to have you with us today. Each weekday, Monday through Friday, we come into your home with a program that we call Town Talk, as you know. And on that program, we bring you Madisonville and Hopkins County's most interesting personalities. And if you've noticed closely, the intro to our program has a picture of two gentlemen sitting down at the courthouse in conversation as the traffic goes by. One of those men that you see each day on the intro is my special guest today. He is Mr. Taylor Knox, who is a young 85 years old, and this is going to be an enjoyable program. Of course, the man who always acts as one of the anchor men for Town Talk is sitting beside me, and that's Private John Price.
How can I look mean into the camera when you're saying Private John? Should be General or Lieutenant or something.
Well, you just got inducted into the service. Price, where's your bayonet?
I got it. Yeah, I got it here for him to see. And it's sharp.
Let's get a shot of that bayonet, too. I don't want to miss any of this equipment. I want everybody to really get a close-up of that.
And it's sharp.
Hold it there in your hand. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, it's World War I.
Well, they are not listening to my instructions. They just take the shots however they want to call them. They don't pay any attention to what I'm saying. I'm just sitting here at the desk. Price, that bayonet is World War I vintage. It was made in the United States, Mr. Knox told me, and it still has a razor-sharp edge.
Yeah, feel his helmet.
I'm telling you what's the truth. A man could almost shave with that.
I know it. Feel that helmet.
Let me try that on for size.
If you couldn't shoot him or stick him, you could hit him with that thing, and that...
As I told you before, my special guest today is Mr. Taylor Knox, and we're going to talk to Mr. Knox about his World War I days, 1918, 1919, when he was a doughboy in France, fought the Battle of the Argonne. This is going to be an interesting program. He's got a lot of artifacts here that we're going to be taking a look at, a lot of old pictures that you're going to find most enjoyable. And for the past several days, since I've known that Mr. Knox was going to be the guest, I've really looked forward to this show.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I want all you folks to call a neighbor right now and ask them to tune in to Town Talk on LIFE Cablevision Channel 3 and tell them that today's program is a humdinger. We're going to have ourselves a time. We're going to go back in history for about 60, 70 years and talk about the good old days. And this is America's bicentennial year, and I think we should give honor to the men who have fought so that America could be great. And we've got such a man with us today. I want to ask him if he knew my uncle, whose name was Truman, who still lives down in Callaway County, but he was also in World War I and fought in the same battle that Mr. Knox fought in. John, things have changed a whole lot in those years.
Oh, man. Fighting equipment's changed a lot.
Yeah, I would say that today's equipment's quite different from what they use, and I'm going to show the folks a picture of the ship they sailed on after a while. But nowadays we transport our men around the world to various places, strategic spots where they're needed in great transport planes, and in those days they had to march to the coast and then get on board the ship and sail across. So he's going to tell us all about that, John. You've been driving around over town. It was a little icy out this morning.
When I came to the church, there was a policeman sitting down at the end of the drive flagging everybody to turn around and go back. The road was closed, and I don't know if it was the ice or they had an accident or what. And it took me about 10 minutes to convince him that I was going up to the church and I needed to get by.
Well, that's probably because the intersection was icy.
Well, I must have been. And
I was riding with my wife, Linda, and she is a good driver. I don't mind admitting that. She's an excellent driver. You hear a lot of talk about women drivers being poor drivers. Some ladies can drive a car better than men, or at least they're a little more careful. But you put the brakes on this morning at an intersection, and we just kept sliding. and a truck was coming down the other street, and he was doing the same thing, and I already had my feet braced ready, but we got stopped and everything was all right. But it was a little slick out this morning.
Well, you know, my wife is from Florida, and being from Florida, they don't have no ice down there. If they snow, it's a rarer thing to have snow in Florida, and she was driving.
Do the driving during the wintertime.
Yeah, at least for a while till she learns.
I was in Florida last week. I visited Christian Retreat, which is a Christian camp. In fact, it's an entire Christian community between Bradenton and Sarasota. The president of Christian Retreat is Gerald Durstein, who has a television series called Teach In. When are you going to start running that? We'll
start running that one night this week. We didn't have it scheduled in the paper that way, yet I think it would fill a time slot that we need changed from some of the programming we're presently showing. And then if they'll watch the paper next week, we'll have a television log telling for sure what night that he'll be on.
Well, it's a very good program. I've watched one of the programs.
It'll probably be on in the 7 to 8 o'clock slot on probably on Tuesdays from now on, for at least for a while on the 7 to 8 o'clock slot. We presently have Lester Summerall.
John, keep talking for a little while I cut off my microphone and cough.
Right.
Would you do it?
All right, we're presently running Lester Summerall at that slot, but we've got him on enough that it wouldn't hurt for us to cut him off 1 hour or so. So he'll fill probably in the future that slot.
Well, Gerald Durstein is a tremendous teacher. He teaches around the world in a good many full gospel businessmen's meetings. He is a Mennonite minister who comes from the state of Pennsylvania, but he's been in Florida for about 20 years. He's doing tremendous work. Back to our special guest today, Mr. Knox. His grandson, John Knox, is one of our television men here at the church, and John does a fine job, except every now and then he misses a cue, like on the picture of the bayonet a little while ago. But John Knox is a grandson of our special guest, and I think a lot of John. He's a good man and doing a good job. John Price, would you escort our special guest, Mr. Taylor Knox, over to the set? And while he's coming this way, we'll prepare for a station break, and we'll listen to John Knox tell you a little something special about LIFE Cablevision Channel 3. Be right back.
This is LIFE Channel 3 in Madisonville, Kentucky, the heart of the Western Kentucky coal field.
And the voice you heard was that of John Knox, the young man I've been talking about. And on the set beside me now, I have John's grandfather, Mr. Taylor Knox. Mr. Knox?
Glad to know you.
Welcome to Town Talk.
You bet.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate you coming over today to do this program with us.
Okay.
Now, between the time we're filming this and when this program is shown later today, I want you to call all your friends and neighbors and tell them to tune in and watch you.
I don't know where they'll want to.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Now, when you were born 85 years ago in Hopkins County,
And September the 7th.
September the 7th,
Last.
there were no televisions or radios around,
No, sir.
were there?
No, sir. No, nothing.
That's one of the changes that's taken place in these years.
Yeah. And
Mr. Knox, what kind of roads do we have in those days? No paved highways, of
dirt
course.
roads,
just
all
old dirt
told.
roads.
Dirt.
Were there any covered bridges in this county? You know, the
Sure.
old wooden bridges?
we had one between this side of Richland, and I never will. I'm sorry that I didn't get a picture of it. An old covered bridge on the Princeton Road now.
Uh-huh.
Early Richland and Princeton Road, that's what we called it then.
Yes.
And it was a covered bridge, and it is located right this side of the overhead bridge I see now,
Yes, sir.
between here and Richland.
You know, in some parts of the country, they still preserve some of those old covered bridges. We've got a few here in the state.
Yeah.
There's one up close to Paris, Kentucky, in Bourbon County.
Yes, sir.
I've seen that,
I have seen it on television.
and I wondered if we had any in this area.
We had one then. That was years ago, of course.
Do you remember anything about your nearest neighbor in those early days?
Well,
Farms were scattered way out, weren't they?
yes, grandfather had a great big old farm I don't know, I don't really know how many acres, but some around 300, I'll say.
That's a big farm today.
Big farm, no money.
Just a big
And my
farm.
daddy had 80 acres, and he was in bad health, and Grandpa was old, and I was trying to cultivate his place and take care of it the best I could, because it was better ground than my daddy. My daddy was sitting on the gold mines and didn't know it. Them days, they didn't know nothing about stripping coal, and later on, after we got shed of it, or he did rather, they stripped that completely. And it's part of the colonial mine location today. I've got a boy working there, been there, I guess, 21 years.
And you used to farm right over that same area?
On my grandfather's old place was on close to this old covered bridge there on what we called Fort Ridge.
What kind of wagon and buggies did you have?
Well,
Did you ever hear of a Decker buggy?
no, the kind I had was an Owensboro, and I'll never forget it. I bought it brand new. 3x9 skein. A lot of people wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
No, tell us what that means.
Well, it's in inches of the wheel boxing, you might say. I don't know just what you'd call it.
Yeah.
But that's what it.
What did it cost? You remember?
No, and I bought one new too. Owens is made over here at Owensboro. Awful good wagon.
Didn't cost as much as a car, did
I don't remember what I give for either one of them. For fact, I paid over $100, some over $100 for my buggy, and that was ideal. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
them days, it was the kind I bought was a yellow running gear. Way I'd describe it, yellow, and them days it was equal to a Buick today.
Uh-huh.
That's just the difference.
What kind of team
And I
pulled
just
that?
had got that, and here come my greetings. So long.
that brings us up to really what we're going to talk about today.
Well,
time and service.
I could have got out of it.
Did everybody call them greetings?
Yes, I guess so. I believe that's the way mine.
That's the way it started out.
I think so. I know I didn't like it. I know that.
Who was a president then?
I really don't know offhand right now.
Was that during the days of Woodrow Wilson?
I guess.
I believe it was. Must have been.
I believe it was. Yeah.
Were a good many young men in this area inducted into service the same time?
Yes, sirree. Several of them. A lot of them.
Now, when you got your greetings, what happened then? Let's just kind of follow this through.
We took off. We left Madisonville, went from Madisonville to Camp Taylor at that time. It's up there by Louisville. It's a different name now, but Camp Taylor is what it was then. I guess it's, I don't know, really know just what to call it. I think it's still a government camp. I don't know for sure about that. Anyhow, Camp Taylor, that is our first camp. And we didn't stay there but a few days, then we went to Beauregard, Louisiana for our military training.
How did you get down to Louisiana?
It was a troop train, freight,
Uh-huh.
all told.
How many men were at the camp down
I
there?
really don't know. There was a trainload of us, numbers of them. I'd be afraid to guess at it.
Mr. Knox, you tell us a little more about your experience down there, and I want to hold up some of these pictures here and ask our cameraman to kind of zoom in on them. This is a picture of Taylor Knox when he was about 26, 27 years old and had first been inducted into the United States Army, standing up there proud and tall. World War I soldier. Mr. Knox, tell me a little something about your uniform, about your hat, and your shoes, and just tell me a little story that happened about your shoes. Let's share that with our viewers. They'd enjoy that. What happened? What happened when the man gave you your shoes?
We had an argument.
Tell us about that. I enjoyed that story. That's a good one.
This is a pair of shoes that I would call tan or russet shoes or whatever you want to call them.
Uh-huh.
Anyhow, I never did in my farming. I never did plow and use every day shoes that the Army wanted us to
wear all the time.
Wear all the time. And back down there then, in this basic training, that's what they issued, hobnails. And a lot of people will know what hobnails is, a lot of people wouldn't. But anyhow, that's the kind I got, and them that knows, they issued them for overseas duty, and there's always, I believe, it was a number larger on account of having to wear the things and your feet swell or something, and the next morning you'd try to get them on and couldn't, and anyhow, that's what they did. And I done, the training that I got down there at Beauregard, Louisiana, was with these old hobnail shoes.
Yes, sir.
And they still had the nails in them, and they still had the shoe. I mean, the mule shoe on the heel. That is for protection. We had a lot of roads down there and marched over a lot of roads that needed them hobnails. They wore any other shoe out real quick. No stuff about that. Well, anyhow, that's what I had, and it didn't fit. And I drilled in June and July, the basic training there, and it was so hot, my heel got infected. And I wanted, I thought I could get a shoe that would fit better. Went down to the supply tent, had an old guy down there, a great tall guy, and smart aleck, and I was too.
I like that.
I guess I was too. I know I didn't feel like taking everything. Of course, I was mad time I started till I got back.
Yeah, that made you a good soldier, I guess.
You had to be to make a good one.
How did you convince them you needed another pair of shoes?
Well, anyhow, I wanted, I thought I took off on the right trail. I was going to try to change him or convince him that my shoes didn't fit, and I wanted something that did fit if I had to drill, and something that'd make my heel better, at least. But anyhow, he got smart, and I didn't feel like taking nothing. I had a chip on my shoulder to start with.
You'd rather be home plowing on the farm.
I certainly had, and I could have been there a while longer.
Yes.
I could have been deferred.
I understand that.
No doubt about that.
Go ahead and tell us what happened.
Well, anyhow, we got in an argument, and I had both of these shoes in my hand, and I just grabbed the sole of one of them, the toe of one of them, and I just fixed him up.
Just worked him over.
I worked him over. Now, I ain't no stuff. And I don't know why I never was put in the guardhouse over it. But
maybe he deserved it. You just gave him a little bit of what he needed.
I think that I really done a good deed. I really think it. I think they agreed with me, because they didn't punish me only by fixed it so that I couldn't leave the camp. I was confined to the camp. I never left that camp while I was down there. And on top of that, on Sundays, there's extra work. I washed dishes down there. I told some of them, I said, if I had a machine gun, I guess I would, too. I don't know.
You know, Mr. Knox, a few days ago, our special guest here was Harold Ledbetter. I believe his wife is some relation to your family.
She's my cousin's daughter.
Well,
she was a Payne, married a Payne.
Harold Ledbetter, as you know, is the president of the Historical Society here.
Yes.
And he had a lot of interesting stories to tell, and we went back to some of that same time. But I have today a copy of some pages taken out of a diary that you kept during all that time you were away from home.
I kept all of that, and my daughter wanted to know why I didn't write more. I said, well, I wasn't expecting to get home with that. And why write more?
Well, the reason I mentioned Harold Ledbetter is that I'm sure he would appreciate seeing some pages out of that old diary you kept way back there. But let me just read a little bit here that came from the diary that Mr. Knox kept when he was in service. He said, the first call came at 4 o'clock. We rose early and finished getting equipped, getting our breakfast and rolling out our pack, and every man seemed to be happy and full of life. At 6 o'clock, everybody had to be in line with all our belongings ready for overseas service. We hiked for 3 miles. It sure was hot. Several of the boys getting too hot. We were hiking to the port of embarkation.
Falling out.
Every now and then we'd take a short rest, but everybody was anxious to go. They could see the big ships in the harbor. It was nice scenery, and many of you had never witnessed anything like that before. Tell me a little something about that morning. Looking back,
When we landed at the...
I would be frightened to think about getting on one of those ships and going across the seas.
I was scared to death all the way over.
I would have been too.
And I said, if anything happens, I'll be the first one. I felt that way about it.
Tell us a little something about that ship.
Well, the Huron or something like that, wasn't it?
Yes, that was the name of the ship.
That's the one I went over on. Well, it is supposed to be, it wasn't supposed to be a passenger. The way I remember it, it was a cattle ship, cattle boat.
Right, it was a transport ship. They just converted it to get some men across the ocean in a hurry.
We had to have something, and I think that's right.
Do you remember how long it took you to sail across?
12 days on the
Well,
water.
I notice here you got a note in your diary, or this was copied from his diary, but it says that on the 8th day you ran into a hard storm.
Yes, but it didn't affect me like one that I come home on. We had a storm coming home on 3 days, and that was the worst, and they said so. The ship, you know, commanders, or the ones that worked on it and everything, they said that was the worst one that they had seen lately.
I happen to have a picture here that
We had 3 days of that.
of the ship that Mr. Knox came home on.
Leviathan.
The name of the ship was the Leviathan, and he has these notations on the back of this picture. And the things that he has written was written on September the 6th,
That's
1919,
right. Yeah.
about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when he was supposed to be 1,000 miles
We was about
from
a day.
New York.
We was about a day from shore.
Well, would have taken a little longer
Well, we
than that to
landed
have
on the
gotten there.
7th.
Yeah. So he wasn't quite that far out, but it was a big ship. It weighed 69,000 tons. It had the capability of going 22 knots per hour. That's what's written on the back of this photo. The ship was 960 feet long, 100 feet wide, had 14 decks, 6 of them underwater, and 8 of them above. Let's get a close-up of this. That ship is leaning or listing because all the men are on that side getting their picture made. Do you notice that?
Yes.
Tell me a little something about that storm.
Well, the storm that we come home on, the one that hit us on this ship, was bad. There's 14 decks, as I described it there, and of course there's 8 above, and really I don't know just what one of these decks was, but anyhow it was, I'd say 8 or 10 foot, and there's 8 of them above the water, and we had orders to stay off the top deck on account of the storm. Waves would hit the top deck and knock us off.
That was bad.
And there was 3 days of this now, and it was a bad one too, they said, the crew.
Did you pray?
I don't know what I done about that.
I imagine everybody prayed a little bit, don't you think?
I guess.
Yes, sir. I would think so.
I'll tell you one thing, we was happy to get here.
I bet so.
And what I'd gone through with and everything. And first day of the month, September, what makes me remember all of it so good and plain, the first day of September, we got on that thing. We got on a small ship. This large one, the Leviathan, was anchored out yonder. Some couldn't get anywhere about the shore. We got on a small ship to go and get on it. And we set sail the first day of September.
Where did you sail from?
Brest, landed at Brest.
That's in France.
That's right, yes.
And then you were on the ocean 12 days?
12 days going over. But we wasn't but 7 days coming home. I was in General Pershing's outfit, select, choice. One day at retreat, there was 2 men in my outfit selected for this composite regiment. And as the nigger said, I was one of them. And the commanding officer said, step forward 2 paces. Well, call my name and another guy, and there's only the 2 out of the company. And we did, and the commanding officer said, well, boys, you're going to have the time of your life.
I'll bet.
Well, we thought, well, we're going home. You know what happened? They sent us to Koblenz, Germany for special training, and the training that we had was with fixed bayonets, and they trained us to go through the full count, the manual of arms, from order arms, standing at attention, with one command, and this was all done with fixed bayonets.
Now, was this something like you had on the end of the rifle?
I don't know where that was the bayonets I had or not, but I know it's American bayonet, I know that. I guess it's my bayonet. And the old Enfield rifles is what we had. And I guess you had to be good because all of this was real hard drilling.
Sure. What about this this helmet? Did you wear this?
Yes, sir.
Now, that must have had some kind of lining in there, didn't it?
It did. Yeah, I don't know. John, I guess he...
Was this issued to you in Louisiana?
Yes, sir. Overseas. I had a buddy that had one of these things on, and the only thing that saved him was he pinned this sharpshooter or whoever he was, German, of course. He hit that boy just about there, maybe where that is, and it bursted his helmet, and of course knocked him out, and he was sent to the hospital for, I don't know how long, a good long while. But he recovered. It didn't kill him, but this is the only thing that saved his life.
Was that helmet?
One of these.
Now, was this in the pack, too, that you carried on your back? That's a mirror, isn't it? A metal mirror?
That's what's called a trench mirror. I had that.
How much one of those packs weigh you had to carry?
I don't really know. They're plenty heavy.
Here's this tea ration.
Yes.
This little box is tea, sugar, and milk powder.
Yeah. Emergency.
What about this?
That's my mess kit, made the rounds.
Was this your dog tags?
Yes, sir.
Isn't that something? It says William Knox. And your number, let me see if I can read your number. 8188608.
You had to have that, too. You had to know it. And you had to know the number of your rifles also. I did. Them days, I don't know nothing now, of course, about it. I don't try to remember it.
That's remarkable. What was this, your...
What's called a mess kit.
That's your mess kit.
And that's, I think, that's a German fork and spoon in there. I just got that and kept it on account of course, it is kind of a, compact thing and easy to carry. And
it's a combination.
I could make out...
Spoon and fork.
I could make out with
of course,
both of them.
This opens up, and slides around. It's a little bit on the rusty side like this.
Wonderful.
That goes back a good many years.
Yeah.
I've got a picture here of a church you attended in Germany. Well, it must have been when you was on a march somewhere. Let's pull a camera in and get a good close shot of that.
That is after I was selected for the composite regiment. And
how many men were in that regiment, Mr. Knox?
Really, I don't know, but it was a small unit, and they all had to be real good with the manual of arms to start with.
You see the X here on this this church right here. That's the cathedral in this German city where Mr. Knox and his men stopped for a service.
That's right.
You remember it was a Catholic service,
It was
and they stopped there. Now, this is a card that was mailed on May the 17th, 1919, by Mr. Knox to a young lady who lived here in Kentucky, whose name was Miss Noma LaFoon. And Noma became the wife of John Knox when he returned home from service. Taylor Knox.
Yeah.
This card was mailed to Earlington, Kentucky, May the 17th, 1919.
I don't think they had a route out there then.
No. How many men did you say was in the composite regiment?
Well, it's less than 100. It is a special unit for General Pershing to parade iron over there, and we didn't do a thing in the world but go to Koblenz and for 5 or 6 weeks training, and they trained us to go through the full manual arms with fixed bayonets from order arms. That's where we started with one command.
Now, you were special troops. That was
Special.
probably like the Green Berets in the Vietnam War.
Yes, sir. It
Special
was
job.
special, and you had to be good with the manual arms to get it. And I had made, of course, I don't know whether this had anything to do with it or not, but I made expert rifleman. And I was talking to somebody down there here a while back, and I said, I don't doubt that helped get me classified for it. But anyhow, we lit out and we paraded in the capitals of 5 different countries over there.
Now, these pictures that I have now are pictures of this regiment when you were visiting these places, because here I notice you're out there in front of the General Pershing, you're in front of the King of Montenegro, you're in front of another special group over here.
That is different pictures of this parade and the specials.
Pull these in as close as you can. Here are the men in athletic events and standing there in front of General Pershing. I want to bring some more of these pictures around in just a few minutes, and we're going to continue our conversation with Mr. Taylor Knox, a young 85-year-old man who lives right here in Madisonville in Hopkins County. He's been a resident of our community all his life. He served in World War I with much distinction, and I'm enjoying my visit with him today. But right now, we need to take about a 60-second pause and listen to some words about LIFE Cablevision Channel 3.
This is LIFE Cable TV Channel 3.
And we're right back, and you heard some good words about LIFE Cablevision Channel 3, and I've just got dozens of pictures here that Mr. Knox was kind enough to bring. Here you are with General Pershing and also with General Wolfe. And it looks like all of these are at various places where you were performing?
I think that was made, all of it was made at Paris, at General Pershing's stadium. I think that's where all that happened.
Yes, sir. That's true.
And it was, different pictures that should be recognized and remembered. And I just got a bunch of them. General Pershing and all of the Allies had a small unit in this. And
now, you were in the Battle of Argonne, right?
Argonne Woods. Went through there.
I don't want, Mr. Knox, I don't want to bring up any unpleasant memories. A lot of men were killed in that battle.
I say there was.
I had an uncle that fought there, but I'm proud of you and my uncle and others who were willing to serve in defense of our country and preserve the American way of life.
We lost a lot of men.
Yes, we did.
And I know of several and that didn't get killed, that got wounded.
Many men suffered to preserve our way of life.
Yeah.
And I think those things should be mentioned during this bicentennial
I had
year.
a guy that served, and he was selected for the 5th Division, and I was too. it took certain qualifications to be ready for a replacement, you see. And we was sent in, we was selected one night to go, and I was in it, and I had the mumps. And therefore, I didn't get to go. And he and a lot of others that was qualified was sent in as a replacement on a certain division over there. And one time I got out of that then, they was in the 5th Division. And the time I got out of that then, I was assigned to the 6th Division.
I notice here you made a notation in your diary that you attended a preaching service. You said the preaching was good, and they sang, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." And another was, "Lord, I'm Coming Home." I would imagine they was hoping they'd get to come home, don't you? And
that's what we thought when we were selected for the composite regiment.
Said you took a look around, but a good many of them were not singing. Isn't that something?
One of my old buddies
He was really
there.
observing it closely, and I'm glad you wrote all these things down so we'd have it to enjoy.
Well, I'd forgot all that.
Mr. Knox, you came up here with a walking cane. Let me see that. That's an unusual cane.
A whole lot of it I wanted to forget.
This is some walking cane, let me tell you. It's got.
I don't see how anyone could make that thing.
Looks to me like it's got
to
5 or
start
6
with,
different kinds of
even
wood.
make it, but and make it.
Tell us the story about that walking cane.
Well, that belonged to a friend of mine. Was guard up there under Ruby Laffoon, I guess, at the White House, Frankfurt, anyhow. And there's a guy up there that had both legs off, and he made these things. And that's aluminum pipe from one end to the other. I don't know where you noticed it. Noticed it. Anyhow, and sold them to these dignitaries, I guess you'd call it. Anyhow, a man
Hold the cane up a little higher so they can see that.
Man that was able to buy it paid $50 for it. And Dick got this one. Now, I don't know how. Might have gave it to him for all I know. I didn't care. Anyhow, when he quit work up there, he brought the thing home. And one day over there at Madisonville, I said, or he wanted to sell it. And I said, "How much, Dick?" He said, $5. I said, "Here's your money." And I've been offered, well, I just wouldn't agree to, I wouldn't even talk about selling it. O.C. Whitfield, a retired farmer, everybody knows him. He said, "I thought you'd sell anything." I said, "Well, I got my will made and I don't want to mess it up."
That's some walking cane. Let me look at it again.
I don't.
Mr. Knox, whoever you've willed this to is going to get a fine cane, let me tell you. And that's an interesting story.
I don't see how they could do it.
Wonder how many of these there are.
No telling.
This man just made them and, like you say, sold them to the rich folks who could afford to pay $50 for a walking cane. Now, during those days, $50 was a lot of money.
Well, yes, but I don't honestly see how he could.
I don't know
how he could make it at all.
I don't know how he got it together.
Because that's really, I don't know, I guess you'd call it a design.
Inlaid in some kind of design.
And every one is a different block.
Yes, sir.
That's for sure.
And several different kinds of wood. Somebody told me you was a musician, that you could play the harmonica.
I used to play the violin, used to play the guitar, but that was years ago. And I haven't tried lately.
Did you bring your harmonica with you?
Yeah, got it.
Well, let's play a little bit.
Well, you won't want to hear it.
Sure I would. What kind of guitar did you have?
Well, it's just very common is what it was, you know, like they have. I had a boy that was...
Was it a flat top or did it have an arch top?
Flat.
Flat top?
I guess that's what you'd call it. It's just a regular guitar. It wasn't...
Lean over here close to this microphone when you play so we can hear you. I think that's great. What? Hey, if we had an audience here, they'd love that. That's great. What was that tune?
I think they call it Fire in the Mountain.
Fire in the Mountain. Do you know where I heard that? In the Ozarks, they've got a big amusement park, something like Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Only it's up in the Ozarks, out from Branson, Missouri. And they've got one ride there. It's like you go down into an old mine. It's roller coaster-like.
Yeah.
And that's the tune that they're playing when you get on that little train.
Yeah. Used to
Fire
have
in the
one.
Mountain.
Used to have one of those things. It represented the mines
Yes.
at Evansville. I remember I took a trip on that thing and going up the what do you call it, the
Incline there.
incline, I guess.
Right.
Anyhow, on each side, you know, what it was supposed to be, it represented mines. The mine here, I mean rooms, and they all represented some part, workers and loading coal and different things all the way up. Of course, it was, you know, imitation. But when you got to the top of the thing, you'd go in under a curtain and said, "Hold your hat."
Right.
And boy,
It dropped like that.
yeah.
Well, that's the kind of thing they got out there at the Ozarks.
Yeah,
Play us another tune.
it was something like,
I'm telling you, you're good on that harmonica. I think that's terrific. How long you been playing harmonica? Since you were a young man?
years. Used to have dances at home, and we'd get out and country dances, I'd call it. You know,
Right, at the houses,
round
out
dance.
in the community.
Yes, we'd get out and make one up in some certain place. A lot of times, maybe they didn't have a violin. I played the violin, but I never was very good on it. But anyhow, maybe we didn't have a violin, and I played a
Let me see your harp. May I just look at it? I can't play. I just want to take a look at it. How long have you had this harp?
I haven't had that one too long. That's a different key to the old harp that I've got at home, and that was made in somewhere. It tells you there. Anyhow, it is overseas, and the one I got at home is a German Hohner.
This was made in Ireland.
That's right. I'd run across that down there here not too long ago, and it was a different
This is a C,
different key,
right?
and the one I got at home is a G. And I some way or another, I was playing there in the basement on this harp. The guy gave it to me, and it belonged to him, of course. And then he wanted to sell it to me, and I said, "How much?" And he told me. So I bought it. But anyhow, the bunch down there in the basement at the courthouse, they got benches and they loaf. And I always liked to argue and didn't care what the other fellow said to me. It didn't, you know, I just took it.
Just
you know.
enjoyed the conversation.
I actually did. I never was much of a hand until I got in the Army, and then I didn't want to take nothing. And it didn't take nothing either. Anyhow, I was playing this, and he wanted to sell it to me, and I bought it. And a couple of the deputy sheriffs come through, and there's others sitting on benches around, and all of them seemed to enjoy it. And these guys, it wasn't the sheriff himself, it was the deputies, two of them. I know their faces, and I see them. They stopped. One of them turned, walked off, started off, and then the other said, "Well, he can play that thing, can't he?"
You sure can. Can you play Home Sweet Home?
Not too good.
Not too good?
Not too good.
These young men here want to hear you play one more song before you put your harp away. You mind doing that?
No.
It sounds good. I know the folks.
Casey Jones?
You folks are bound to be enjoying this. Casey Jones would be a good
Casey
one.
Jones, huh?
That'd be great. Just lean over here close to the mic, or we'll move it over that way a little bit.
Okay.
I'll tell you, that's some music.
He's talking of Home Sweet Home. I'll tell you what happened. When I got in Pershing's outfit, we began to parade. After we had this special training, we began to parade in different countries. And all the Allies was represented in this small unit. General Pershing and Belgian commander, whatever his name was, I really forgot. But anyhow, commander-in-chief of the French army was old Marshal Foch. I remember him very well. And the Italian, they had a small unit. And these was all selects to make this tour with their commanders, show other countries what America was, Belgian, a lot of people never seen.
Right.
And they had there's certain requirements, I guess you'd call it. Anyhow, you had to be as much as 6 foot high, and I was 6 foot barefooted. And anyhow, I qualified, and I got in it, and we began to parade, and we went to the capitals of 5 different countries over there. We was London, England, 8 days. And when we crossed the English Channel one night and went into London the next morning, and the commander of our outfit, he gave us company front, which is everybody, lined up. Them that knows, in there knows what I'm talking about. But anyhow, and we went through the full manual of arms from order arms at attention. We were standing at attention with our guns with the side. We were trained to that effect. We went through the full count, whatever it was. I don't remember how many counts it was. Just like clock ticking, with one command. And when we made all these trips over there and come home, of course Pershing was with us, and he is the one that's getting the reception. We landed in New York Harbor on the 7th, and we anchored up there. And next morning, the 8th, we began to float down through it was late that night when we got in, and we wanted to have and them days they had steam ships, everything. And no telling how many there was in the harbor. But anyhow, General Pershing was on this ship, and we was floating down through the thing, and they all started to blowing and giving us, reception, I guess you'd call it. Of course, he was the one that was getting it by honor. Anyhow, I was on it. and that thing, they, I don't know how long, 15 or 20 minutes or maybe longer. every ship in that harbor was, you couldn't tell one from the other. We knew they're all in action, and it was.
As a big welcome.
A big welcome, I guess it was. And we had a Marine band with us, and as good as ever hit the board. And I really enjoyed hearing them play. And when they ceased, everything was just as quiet as would be if we was to quit talking right now. And that Marine band opened up, and no place like home.
No place like home.
That's right.
I bet a lot of men is glad to be home that day.
I thought that was the sweetest thing ever.
I'll bet so. Mr. Knox, we need to take a break so they can tell the folks a little bit about LIFE Cablevision Channel 3, and then we'll be right back. And when we come back, I'm going to ask John Price, our youth minister here at the church, to come back and join us, and he's going to bring the guitar, and we're going to team up, and he's going to pick the guitar, and you're going to play the harmonica. We'll just have a little duet here. We'll be right back after this station break.
We'll get them tuned together, I guess.
This is LIFE Channel 3 in Madisonville, Kentucky, the heart of the Western Kentucky coal field.
And we're right back, and our guest today, as you know, is Mr. Taylor Knox. He is an 85-year-old man, resident of this county all his life, and we have reminisced today about some of his experiences as a soldier during the days of World War I. Last week, one of my guests was a young man by the name of Henry Jernigan, and we had a good time. And I was thinking, when people get together, whether they're just young or up in years, well, when you begin to reminisce about the good times of yesterday and even some of the bad, it makes for an interesting hour, doesn't it? I've really enjoyed my visit today with Mr. Knox. He's standing by over here with his harmonica just ready to play. I'll bet his repertoire includes hundreds of songs. And John Price is standing by with the flat-top guitar. And so just for about another 2 or 3 minutes here, we're going to listen to some harmonica playing by Taylor Knox and guitarist John Price. Let's hear it, man.
They're pretty well together?
Yeah, they're a little off, but they're close enough.
What we're going to play?
Who's been getting there?
All right. I've never heard it, but I'll try
You
it.
play it and he'll follow. That had a quick ending. That's what you call a surprise finish.
I think I played a little fast too for him.
Well, I don't know. You may have.
I've never heard that before.
He's having a hard time keeping up with you. Mr. Knox, do you remember any revival meetings around here many years ago, or political rallies or gatherings, some of the speakers, or what may have happened?
No, not. Of course, I have attended several different ones at Southern Church. My wife was a member out there, and I wasn't.
Now, what church was that?
Southern's.
Where is that?
Well, it's on Arlington-Richland Road, a little bit off from Arlington to Dawson Springs.
Uh-huh.
A little bit off of the road that John Finley place, we called it, out there about 3 miles from.
Now, is that church building still standing? It's
yes,
still there?
It's new now, a new one. That is, It was the old church way back there then.
Did you ever have any brush arbor meetings around here or see any of them?
They did up there, I think.
Camp meetings,
I don't-
old-time camp meetings?
I think they did up there before the new church was built. Wife always went. She was regular. But I felt this way. I don't think anyone can say they went through what I did and they didn't, kill somebody. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know I don't know how to answer that. Anyhow, Armistice Day, John, staying there with me, he come in there where I was at, and I had put my flag out, and he didn't know what Armistice was, don't guess. Anyhow, he hadn't got up. He come in where I was at. I said, well, you know what this is? He said, no. I said, well, it's Armistice Day. It's my Armistice Day. Mm-hmm. I said, a lot of people are trying to change it, but it'll never be changed from my part of it. I said, the 11th day of November is when we quit shooting. Well, he said, did you ever kill anybody? I said, well, I winged one fellow and I run over another and I think killed him. Just a little last cry about it.
Yeah, I guess that's right. The guest today has been Taylor Knox, an 85-year-old gentleman who lives here in Madisonville in Hopkins County, and we've reminisced just about through all the program about his experiences during the days of World War I think America's year of celebration should give quite a bit of honor and recognition to men such as Mr. Knox, who went away to war, and when America was being threatened, helped to preserve our nation.
Had a round trip.
I think in addition to that, we ought to give a great deal of thanksgiving to God to spare a man to live to be 85 years old.
A lot of them didn't.
That's a good many years more, Mr. Knox, than a lot of folks live. That's more than the average lifespan of a man. And we have to say that when God spares a man that many years, he has some good purpose for him being here. And one of your good purposes was to be on this program today. I think the fact that you still enjoy living, that you can sit there and laugh with me and young John Price, play the harmonica and enjoy it.
I really enjoyed it.
And it should say to a lot of friends who are watching this program that life doesn't end when you get to be 40 or 50 or 70 or 80.
It's about what you make it.
As long as the good Lord leaves you here, life is what you make it.
Are we about finished up?
We're about to finish up. We got about one more minute.
I had a sad experience, really, that I wanted to tell.
Well, tell it right quick. We may have time to get it out.
No, I don't think so.
Don't think so? All right, let's do this. How about you coming back to see us sometime, and we'll start there where we left off today.
This is really so. The way this happened, that a lot of people wouldn't believe it, but it's actually so. There's a guy that I served with, left here the morning he did with me, and we went overseas together. And we was together the most of the part over there, but not entirely. He was sent to a different front and was wounded. I'm satisfied of that. But anyhow, he come home on the ship that I did.
Mr. Knox, they tell us that the time is all gone.
Well,
I want you to finish that story the next time you're on Town Talk. I hated to have to break into that. Wasn't all that this man has told us today has been quite interesting, and he'll finish that story the next time he's our guest, and I promise to have him back. You've been watching Town Talk.
Nobody won't believe it.
Tune in tomorrow. It was good to visit with you today.
Town Talk is produced by Life Tempo Productions in conjunction with the Madisonville Cablevision. No portion may be reproduced without the express written consent of the producers. Join us again tomorrow with John Stalls and his guests on Town Talk.